Hello, and welcome to Stories from the View, a podcast from the Pleasant View Senior Center in East Longmeadow, Massachusetts. On this podcast, we invite East Longmeadow residents to tell us stories about their lives and events. And today, we are very happy to have Maureen O'Shaughnessy O'Connor McFarlin here to talk about her life and her ancestry. And your host today is Mary Jenowin Kaplan.
Thank you, Eric. Good morning, Maureen.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for coming today. And it's the season. It is today, March 19th. And so we are still in the High Holy Week for St. Patrick's Day. And cannot wait to hear your story. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, I just want to talk about the ancestors in my dining room.
Ah, they're in your dining room.
They're
Nice.
in my dining room. So, again, my name is Maureen O'Shaughnessy O'Connor McFarlin, and I've been a happy member of the Pleasant View Senior Center in East Longmeadow for several years. When Mary first approached me about sharing my Irish heritage with her, I thought she was going to come over to my house into my dining room, and she could take pictures of all the original documents and pictures that I have on my walls. So instead, I'll be sharing with you and just talking about the ancestors in my dining room.
Okay, so Maureen, we won't be giving out your address so that our listeners will show up on your door. We'll just have to depend on your descriptions.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Okay. So if you came into my dining room, Mary, the first wedding picture that you would see would be my husband's parents' wedding picture. My husband passed a couple of years ago, but I'm just going to let you know that his father, Walter McFarlin, and his bride, Lillian Maybeth McFarlin, is in the picture with their matron of honor and best man, Elsie Waugh and Clarence Waugh. So after that, there's the original wedding picture of my parents, John and Bridget O'Shaughnessy, along with their best man, Mike Mullaney, and the matron of honor, Bridget's cousin, Margaret Dowd, and the little flower girl, Eileen Sharkey, second cousin to Bridget, my mom. They were married on August 2nd, 1937, in St. Anthony Padua Church on Manhattan Avenue in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, New York. Mom told me that she rented her beautiful wedding gown for $25. She's carrying a bouquet of calla lilies. They had a wedding reception at Mom's cousin's house on the third floor in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, New York. The name of the street was Collier Street. Dad said that after many hours of dancing, he was thrown into the Sharkey bathtub, that was the name of the cousin, to cool off.
That was a wild party.
That was.
This is the picture that we took with you for this podcast, correct?
Yes,
So
yep. That's
our
their
listeners
original.
can see that picture.
Yes, okay. So they rented a cabin in the Catskill Mountains and then went to Niagara Falls, New York on their honeymoon. The next item on the wall are their original passports. John O'Shaughnessy, born November 15th, 1899, was the youngest of 13 children, born in the village of Lawhill in County Limerick, Ireland. He arrived in America, landing in Ellis Island in 1922. John's parents were Michael O'Shaughnessy, born in 1842 in Lawhill, and Bridget Fitzgerald Lyons, born in the Gonnock House near County Cork in Ireland. Dad left Ireland as a young man and worked for a few years in England, so he has an English passport. After landing in Ellis Island, he lived with his brother, Michael O'Shaughnessy, and his family in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, New York. He became a cab driver in New York City. Bridget McDonough Dowd, born April 14, 1905, arrived after sailing the Atlantic for 11 days in 1929, the year of the financial crash in this country. And so she landed in New York in a Navy yard, as Ellis Island was either closed or not processing immigrants that day. She tells the story that on her journey, she had a bottle of Irish whiskey that she was going to be able to share with all her cousins. So on her day of arrival, she was so nervous when she saw the cousins that she dropped the bottle of whiskey, right?
It came all this way.
And it spilled on the ship's deck to the terrible shock to the cousins. And she told that story over and over again. She was born in the village of Heapstown, County Sligo. Her father was Dominic McDonough, and her mother was Bridget Dowd. She had a twin sister, Mary, and two brothers, John and Tom. And so her passport was she sailed directly from Ireland, as my father sailed from England. I have an original copy of their marriage certificate and a copy of my mother's birth certificate, all framed on those walls of my dining room. Dad and Mom met at an Irish dance in New York. They did not know each other before that. And so they met at an Irish dance, and then they moved to Springfield, Massachusetts, soon after their marriage. Dad was offered a job with the Cunningham rug and linoleum business. The Cunninghams were cousins of my mother. Dad had a small business in the linoleum business. He raised his family in the linoleum business. On another wall, I have framed their original citizenship papers. Dad became a citizen on June 28, 1932, and Mom became an American citizen on February 25, 1936. There is a picture of the O'Shaughnessy home with Dad's parents and some of the 13 children taken in the village of Law Hill. These are all on the walls of my dining room. A picture that was left of Mom's house in Heapstown in 1993 is taken. My sister Sheila and I, along with her husband Lou, and my husband Walt, took a trip over there in 1993, and we went to Heapstown, Sligo. So we were able to take a picture of the remains of my mother's thatched roof house. And in that thatched roof house, my mother said that she grew up in 2 rooms. So in the kitchen, they had a fireplace, and the 4 children's beds were slid into the wall beside the fireplace. I know, that's... And so we saw that the house was pretty well demolished when we saw it, but it was wonderful to be able to walk all those fields around her house and remember her as a child when she was growing up.
And to put a picture to the stories.
Yeah.
The wonderful
To
stories.
all the stories that she told us. Of course, in my dining room also, I have my china closet, which is filled with Irish dishes. I have an Irish teapot. I have covered serving dishes. I have cups and saucers and bowls and Irish crystal wine glasses, all from Ireland. I have a dining room table with a couple of leaves that you can sit to 10. So if I put the leaves in the table, I can fit up to 10, 14, 15 people for an exciting meal or an exciting card game. I am warmed by all my ancestors in that room. I feel their presence there, and I think our history runs through our veins as long as we continue our stories and pictures and documents. Our history will be remembered. I mean, I guess we'll be cooking corned beef and cabbage to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, playing Irish music and watching the Irish parade in Holyoke. I have made mutton pies through the years and served them in soup. I feel it's so important to become friends with your ancestors and pass down the stories. I also have an Irish flag that I put up. I have I have CDs of Irish music, and I just was, hoping that other people that have all these documents in their family can display them on the walls of their house. And so as people come in and they can take a look at it, you can pass on the stories. And as long as you're telling the stories, the people will be remembered.
Absolutely.
I also have a sign that says Céad Millafalcha. That's a Gaelic sign, and it means 100,000 welcomes. And I guess for me, I was born in the let me see. I was born in the silent generation. So that was after the Great Generation. So I was born in 1939. So I guess in my generation, we were silent because it was after the war, and we didn't make a lot of trouble. It was after the Second World War, and actually it included some of the 1929 Depression years. Mm-hmm. So I guess now I'm thinking that it's a different world out there now. And that was after the greatest generation also. They were first, and then we were the silent generation. I do have a plaque on the wall that talks about St. Brendan, who was a navigator in the 6th century. And there's a picture of him with a crew of 4 monks to be interpreted as the church finding people of God and going to heaven through a world of difficulties.
So, Maureen, you are your family historian. Was this always the way? Were you, as a young child, were you interested in the stories at that point, being the silent generation?
My father he had a Victrola, and he would put these Irish records on as children. And he just would tell stories about how he was when he was a little boy and how he rode his bike. But remember, he was the youngest of the 13 children, and he had siblings that that left and came to this country, to the United States. But some of them did come back, and he would tell us about if they came back, and they came back with the feathers in their hat. And he just...
So some were successful in America.
Yes.
And
yep.
Others?
And stayed in America and had their families. Some of them went back and forth. But he was constantly telling us these stories. So some of us, we wrote them down. My sister, so I'm the oldest of 5 children. My sister Nancy was after me. She was a school teacher. She has passed now, and she did a lot of history also. My sister Sheila was a nurse, and she's still living, and she lives down in Cape Cod now. So she was, we were there hearing the stories. I have a brother, Johnny, that lives in Agawam, and with his wife, Teresa. And then our youngest, my sister, Pat, has passed away. But my father didn't get married until he was 40 years old. Mm-hmm. And I'm the oldest, and my sister, Pat, was born 8 or 9 years after me.
God
so
bless
he
him.
was close to 50 when Pat was born. Yes. So, but he remembers, and he had good feelings about where he came from. And I think, they left the country because it was hard. They didn't have a lot of material things, and they were never able to go back. So I guess that's, yeah.
That is a wonderful story of immigration where even though folks came to America and are patriotic and love America, they still have strong roots
Yes.
in Ireland. Now, you did a little bit of work for this. Tell us about your research to come and share your story with us today in the podcast.
Well, I actually went over to the library in East Forest Park, in the East Forest Park section, and I thought that I had these words that I wanted to say. So they have many computers over in the East Forest Park Library. So they sat me down and showed me how to type, which I did type as a young person many years ago on a
Did it come back
typewriter.
to you?
Well, it came back to me, but there's so many different things that you have to learn on a computer.
Oh.
So, but they were kind, and they showed me little things. But yes, I had to come out. I had to look through my papers and through my sister Nancy's history and little notes that I wrote down. And the nice thing about it is a couple of my grandchildren came over one night, and their last name is O'Connor, and they have a history unto themselves with that family that came from County Kerry. But I wanted to start, I had all these papers, and I wanted to tell them about the O'Shaughnessy family. And they were fascinated.
And how old are they?
My grandchildren
Roughly, yeah.
are 24, Cassidy O'Connor. Kaylin O'Connor is 23, and Helena O'Connor is 20. And they
Young
live in
adults
East Long Meadow.
who are interested in the heritage.
Yes, they are. And I was so happy that they were looking through the papers and asking me questions. And because they've been to Ireland, and they have been to the O'Connor side of the family, their dad and their mother's side. But for them to hear about their grandmother's O'Shaughnessy family was new to them, and they had a lot of questions. Yeah, it was wonderful. I was glad that they had that interest.
So would you say one more time your thoughts about telling the stories and keeping people alive and with us? Because that so warmed my heart. If I'm not asking too much here. Yeah.
But you know what? I think that once you stop telling the stories about a person, they're not going to be there anymore. So I think the stories are so important, really. And, I just feel that it's important that we just keep that up. And I know that when I go into my dining room and I can sit down and, enjoy all the members of the family now, I just hear those stories from all those pictures and documents. And I think it's important that we just continue that. It's...
I'm guessing those ancestors are smiling down.
Oh, I hope so.
Especially this weekend.
Yeah.
There'll be some corned
Yep.
beef and cabbage. There'll be some family around. And those who are listening can see you festoon in green from head to toe.
Yep. And I had my fascinator hat on. I came here to a St. Patrick's Day lunch at the center here, and I wore my fascinator hat, and a lot of the people here were taking pictures. But we have some fascinating people in our senior center here. I play cards, I play pitch, and I play dominoes. And some of the pitch players here are 95, 97, and they're just, they have stories too, and I love to listen to them. And they're bright, and they're glad to be here and glad to be alive, and I just think it's important that we enjoy our retirement years, and it's a blessing that we can remember. Sometimes we can remember better about many years ago than we can remember about yesterday. Mm-hmm. But I feel blessed that I can still do that and come here and enjoy all the people that are here. Yeah.
I absolutely appreciate what you've said. You're on one of my soapboxes that socialization and keeping active is brain fitness, and it will help us enjoy our retirement days and keep us sharp.
Yeah.
And those pitch players, you guys don't fool around. I mean, this is serious competition.
No, we're very serious.
And you're very kind, but it's very serious card
absolutely.
playing.
Yeah. And we would love to have new people join us at any time. Mm-hmm. This week also, we had a young girl come in, and we did these shamrocks, painting shamrocks on glass. And there was about 15 of us, and it was beautiful, the end product. We were all surprised each other. Everybody did something different, but it was wonderful. It was like, it came out like a stained glass window.
You've added another piece to your collection.
Another piece to my dining room.
Is there room for one more? Oh, Maureen, thank you so much for telling your story. It's got me in the spirit, continuing our St. Patrick's Day week, and I hope you'll inspire others to come forward and tell their stories. We have a rich community here, and we want to know more about it.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much, Maureen. We appreciated hearing about your family, and it was great. Yeah. Oh. And what's wonderful is that this will be posted on YouTube, and it will be there forever for people to be able to listen to. So, So those grandchildren, those great grandchildren, will always be able to come back and listen to it. So. Yeah. So it's wonderful. So thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Well, that wraps up another episode of Stories from the View. We'd like to thank Maureen O'Shaughnessy. I want to make sure I get everything here. Maureen O'Shaughnessy O'Connor McFarlin for being here today. The Stories from the View podcast. It's available on the LCAT 01028 channel on YouTube. It's also on Spotify. If you have a story that you'd like to share on the program, contact Senior Center Director Emily Constantino by stopping by the Pleasant View Senior Center or by calling Emily at 525-5436, extension 1401. Or you can send Emily an email, emily.constantino@eastlongmeadowma.gov. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Stories from the View.